Hello everybody, my name is Logan Dane and welcome once again to my Piece of the Internet short video today. I typically don't like to weigh in on foreign politics and stuff, but Canada does happen to be a neighbor of ours, and unfortunately, especially for the citizens of California, the leader up there who has just the uncanniest resemblance to a certain dictator and whose family was very close to this dictator. That person happens to be close to the current governor of California, and so I wouldn't be surprised if they had certain overlappings in philosophy or visions, let's say, that they want for their people. This person, whose name is Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, he had a very interesting discussion, and he said in a very recent interview that you do not have the right to defend yourself with a gun. Let's listen to that clip now.
And there are debates, and we have a culture where the difference is guns can be used for hunting or for sport shooting in Canada, and there's lots of gun owners, and they're mostly law-respecting and law-abiding. But you can't use a gun for self-protection in Canada. That's not a right that you have in the Constitution or anywhere else. If you try and buy a gun and say it's for self-protection, no, you don't get that. You get it for hunting. You can get it for sport shooting. You can take it to the range, no problem, as long as you go through our rigorous background checks. But there's a difference around the culture. And one of the things that we're seeing with the debate in the States is you get more and more of the American style, right to carry, self-defense arguments filtering up through the usual more right-wing communications channels.
Yeah. Justin Trudeau, I'm not going to presume that he is an idiot, but I've made this point, and this point is being increasingly made clear. The Second Amendment does not give you the right to keep and bear arms. It is a right that you already have. It is a right that precedes government, before government. The government does not give it to you. The government cannot take it away from you. Now, this right is a right that you have, no matter where you are, just like you have the right to live, no matter where you are. That is the point of it. So this idea that just because it's not in the Constitution, it's not a right that you have it. I don't care if it's in the Constitution. It doesn't matter if it's in the Constitution. You have the right, always. The right to defend yourself, of course, emerges from your right to life, the right to live. You have a right to defend that life. More so, you also have the right to defend your loved ones. You have the right to defend your community. These are things that you inherently have the right to have. These are things that you don't need to be given permission to do. So this idea that these rights, for instance, come from a constitution or any piece of paper or from any legislative body fails to understand a lot of the core concepts of Western philosophy. This philosophy, of course, has led to the prosperity of millions, if not billions of people. So the step back is exactly that. It is a regression.
Is you get more and more of the American style, right to carry, self-defense arguments filtering up through the usual more right-wing communications channels.
I never liked this idea that it was a right-wing concept to defend yourself. I don't know when it became so polarized between right and left. You can argue all day, of course, that it has become a more right-wing concept, but the only reason it's become a right-wing concept in that case is because the left kind of let it. If it's a right-wing concept, it is only a right-wing concept because the more leftist progressives have abandoned the idea that you should be able to defend yourself. This is first and foremost an American concept. There is no right and left in it. At least there shouldn't be. And it's unfortunate that there is. Now, as you may also know, this Justin Trudeau also banned the sale, transfer, everything of handguns.
We're introducing legislation to implement a national freeze on handgun ownership. What this means is that it will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada. In other words, we're capping the market for handguns.
Which, of course, increased the sale of handguns because everyone now wants one. But once those people are passed, I don't know what happens to them. I guess the government's going to confiscate them, or they're just going to hand them down to their kids and their kids and their kids and their kids, which case it would be impossible to track. Much like many of the guns in the United States are. That's totally not a Civil War shotgun hanging on my wall. When did serialization in the United States start anyway? Now, the whole point I'm making this video, of course, is to kind of explain that part. The Constitution does not give you your right to keep and bear arms, just like it doesn't give you the right to speak. These are things that you already have. These are things that you do not need permission to do. You don't need permission to defend yourself. You don't need permission to protect your family. Now, I have heard arguments that you should, of course, amend the Second Amendment. Now, you may say, well, if the Second Amendment doesn't give you your right to keep and bear arms, why are you against us amending it or abolishing it or whatever? And I would say that the Second Amendment is still very symbolic. For one, it has preserved that right in the minds of people for generations, for almost 200 years. Think of how many people would have forgotten their rights if they didn't simply read what their rights were. One of the big problems that I see in our culture is that they have forgotten the philosophy upon which this country was founded. Now, why that happens, who knows? Cultures don't always do the best job at preserving the things that made them great. But that Bill of Rights has done a good job at least calling to remembrance in the minds of the people that read it what their rights actually are. One of the things that the Anti-Federalists got right, at least. And so, yes, I do not need a piece of paper to tell me I have the right to keep and bear arms. You do not need a piece of paper that tells you you have the right to keep and bear arms. You do not need a paper in any country that tells you that you have the right to defend yourself. End of story. That idea is embedded in Western philosophy. Now, I'm not telling you to, of course, go to places, perhaps with it. That is your decision. Whatever you do, be wise. Don't get into trouble. I just wanted to call out Trudeau for this just grave misunderstanding of Western philosophy, this idea that you don't need to protect yourself, especially with the things that we see nowadays. It's probably not the wisest to trust, other people for the entirety of your protection. You are your own first responder. With that being said, you should also probably know at least a little bit of first aid, but that's just my advice. And of course, this is, like I said, a little bit relevant in American politics, mainly because Trudeau is a friend of Mr. Newsom, governor of California, and it is unfortunate that California also is sometimes a gateway into the United States for some of just the worst ideas. Anyway, whatever you do, be safe. That's all I have for you today. Like I always say, you are a free people. Act like it. I shall see you next time. Farewell.